Chapter 1128 of One Piece, we had a new character, which is great. We don't get new characters all the time in the series nowadays, but we got this big guy with a moose on their head, and they're saying they're the sun god. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, man, with this. We got to get to the bottom of this. I got a couple theories on what the heck is going on, but before the next chapter comes out, I want to talk about them. Let's just get right into it. I'm not good with scripts and all that. We're just gonna get into it today. Theory number one, this person ain't even a giant to begin with. They're actually just a regular sized person, and all these straw hats have been somehow shrunk with, I don't know, a shrink fruit or something. Because there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now when it comes to size, and right now we're not sure if it's just because, Oda likes to just mess with size a lot, or if something very specific is happening with all of these things with inconsistent sizes. Because first off, the actual guy itself is huge, like way bigger than Dorian Baragi, you know, like almost like Oars sized, and having someone that big in the universe just like being around and no one knowing about them and being called the sun god of all things, that's weird. You think we would have heard about that person at this point in time. There's also a part at the beginning where Nami is like, we could have been gigantified, so I feel like that's a red herring. I don't know. Lots of times Oda just tells us stuff just to tell us stuff, and a lot of One Piece theorists just kind of get all crazy and stuff. They're like, oh, this is a red herring. Oh, it's probably the opposite of what's going on. In this case, it probably is just the opposite of what's going on, and instead of being gigantified, they're actually being shrunk. So that would be interesting. There's like a bunch of weird size stuff. Like we see them fight like a giant snake, but not as giant as a snake from Skypiea. And then there's a crow who also has a skull on his head, but the skull is bigger than like the shrunken humans' heads, but it's not as big as like a giant's head. It's like, that's just a weird size of a skull specifically to put on a crow. Also, there's little rats going around. They don't really do much, but then those rats are about the same size as this giant grasshopper that this dude was riding. So it's like, I know that the grasshoppers are not as big as rats. So like, what's going on with that? Is this guy who's using this like shrinking and growing powers, that he somehow make the grasshopper bigger or the rat smaller? I don't know why he would make the grasshopper bigger specifically, but if everyone shrunk down, I feel like, I don't know, that wouldn't make much sense. Like, we know for a fact that the animals in Elbaf are bigger. It has been mentioned at least more than once. I know it back all the way in the Big Mom flashback, like one of the very first things that happens is like, oh, wow, the fish here are really big. So we know that the animals here are bigger, and also that would make sense because, you know, they gotta eat big animals. They're not just eating a bunch of tiny animals all around Elbaf. That wouldn't make no sense. So they got big animals. But size stuff, people are saying like, oh, but if they were big, they would have like a goofy, character design. Back in Amazon Lily, when Luffy was fighting all the big tigers and stuff, you know, those had goofy designs, and these guys don't have goofy designs, so these must be regular sized animals, and everyone shrunk. So I don't know if I buy that as much, but that is a point that I've heard. Another thing about this theory, though, is that when we left the room and we went to the big giant room, one, they finally realized that this is all like synthetic Lego stuff, and in the Viz translation, Sanji even calls it like an organic resin plastic, you know. And then, so there's that. There's one-way mirrors, which I'm pretty sure were not made in the pirate days, or especially in like the Viking days. And then there's also like a wired netting inside the glass, so it's like wired glass, which is like a very recent modern thing that, you know, Vikings and pirates definitely would not know about. And from what we know of Elbaf, you know, we've just seen like the little villages and the Elbaf giant pirates. They're pretty primitive when all things considered. There's not a lot of modern stuff when it comes to them. So it makes me think that this person is not affiliated at all with Elbaf or the Elbaf giants. We know that Saul, when we first met Saul, they were like, oh, he's a giant from Elbaf, but he's like, oh, I'm not one of those like stupid dumb warrior pirates, you know, I'm a big smart guy. So we know that there are giants who can be more sophisticated than the Elbaf giant pirates, more than Dorian Bragi. But you know, a lot like this weird Lego stuff and the one-way mirror and the wired netting make it really feel like this is a more modern person than we think, which, I mean, I know we just left Egghead, which was all futuristic and stuff, but I don't know how this person would have these types of things. This is very weirdly modern that we haven't seen from anyone besides the people in Mads, really. Another thing about this guy and the size is that when we're in there, we see these like little clouds moving around, and they're definitely moving around because they are in front of the tree. And even in the very last panel, the little cloud is in front of the person, and the person is huge compared to this cloud. Like, not even Or's was like big compared to like a little cloud. And it's also weird because the cloud's moving around, even though Nami said that there is no wind in this big room. So like, how are these clouds moving? What's up with that? Did he shrink clouds? Does he somehow have a way to like make little tiny clouds that are moving around? I don't know. There's something up with these clouds. I haven't heard anyone talk about these little tiny clouds moving around, but there's something about it that, I mean, they're definitely not real. They can't be real clouds. There's no way, no how. There are also some other little oddities that I'm thinking about. Like, why wasn't this character in there when they woke up? Like, if his whole plan, if this person's whole plan is to like put people in their like little abode and then like, you know, act like they're the sun god, why would they not be there like right as they wake up and be like, oh, I'm the sun god, yada yada yada? Why is he just roaming around when you just caught all these people and dressed them all up and then he just left? And they're just like, okay, I guess they'll handle themselves out. I don't want to watch them wake up and realize things. I mean, I feel like that would be half the fun, is, you know, catching that part of it. But he wasn't even in the room when all that was going on. Like, what was this person up to? Also, another thing about who this person is and what kind of things they know, because they obviously don't know who the Straw Hats are, or else they would know not to put them in this situation to where they could easily break out and beat up your pets. Like, this person is surprised. Does this person not get the news? We know that Wano was isolated and wouldn't get in the news, but we do know that Dorian Broggy talked about Luffy being the sun god before they saw Luffy again in Egghead, which means that they saw his bounty poster, which means that like they got the paper themselves, either when they were in Egghead or... No, they were not still in Little Garden at that point in time when they were going back and forth at this point. So they probably in Elbaf got news. They get probably papers all the way there. How does this person not know what the Straw Hats look like? How do they not know? Or else they would have known on the bounty post that this guy looks like the sun god, and that might be important news to this person. So this person is seeming pretty ignorant of the outside world at this moment. So I wonder how that will play out. Theory number 2, in opposition to theory number 1, is that this person is just actually a really big giant. We're not shrunk. There's nothing weird going on with that. We could possibly be in Elbaf, and this one specific giant just wants to take people and put them in their little room and pretend to be the sun god, because they know about the sun god from probably Elbaf, and they, you know, dress them up in little outfits and whatnot, and that's how they do it. They're probably not Loki. I'm at this point pretty confident that this person is not Loki. It doesn't look anything like the silhouette that we saw a long time ago, but, you know, silhouettes can't always be trusted from hundreds of chapters ago. There also is a chance that this person is actually a nice person, and that it's all a misunderstanding, and that they're actually not very, they're almost definitely not very strong at all, and the only reason they seem intimidating is because they're so much bigger than everyone else. But like when it comes to One Piece power scaling and whatnot, I don't think this person has actual fighting capabilities. And then there could be a chance that they could be actually a nice person. It could just be a big old misunderstanding, and, you know, something will happen, and then they're gonna take the mask off and all that, and then that's when theory number 3 will come out, and we'll find out that this giant is actually a girl. Why do I think that? I mean, the main obvious reason is just because we see the person wearing heels, and Heels means girl, I guess. The heels that the sun god is wearing is very similar to the heels that Nami is wearing at the moment with the fur boots, but it could just be boots. You know, there are people in One Piece that have worn heels and boots that look similar to that, so that could be the case as well. But we've seen in the past of people being introduced either as a silhouette or in a mask in One Piece, and having the trope come up of like, oh, this person, oh, when they take their mask off, oh, they're actually a girl, you know. We've seen this a couple times. We've seen this with Yamato. This is how people are feeling about Emu too, is that, you know, Emu is actually a girl, but we're silhouetted, so we're keeping it a secret till the end. Another reason is, obviously the Gunna Sector's reason, is that they're playing with dolls in a sense. This whole area that they've set up, you know, Usopp even calls it like doll's clothes that they're wearing right now. You know, someone sewing. These are all, you know, things that stereotypically a woman could do. And also my main reason is because I think that will make things a little less creepy due to the fact that all of the Straw Hats woke up with their clothes changed. You know, it would be a lot better for, you know, a girl to have done that to Nami than some weird man to change Nami's clothes. So that's why I'm hoping that it's actually a girl under the mask. The one hiccup with this is that in the new Viz translation at the end of the chapter, Zoro says, oh, he's catching up, here he comes. But in the a different scan translation, he says, here they come, which is why I thought that in the first place. But because he's already yelled at this point, like, my beloved temple. So Zoro would at this point know what this person's voice sounds like. So if he's saying that this person sounds like a dude, then it probably is a dude, which makes it weird that he's dressing Nami up and stuff like that, but whatever. There's also a good chance that this new character could be the princess of the arc, you know? All of these One Piece arcs in this new world, it feels like there's always a princess. Even in the last, like, technological Egghead arc, we had Bonnie as the princess because she was Kuma's daughter, who was the king of the Sorbet Kingdom. So, and then, you know, we've had princesses with Yamato, and we had a princess with Rebecca. Then we also had in Whole Cake with Pudding, you know, all of the Big Mom kids technically too. So the princess trope is strong. He likes using them. Oda likes having the princesses in here. And we already know there is a prince, Loki, here. So the fact that there could also be a princess, you know, is something that could happen, you know? And the actuality of this situation is that this princess could be like locked in a tower or something, or isn't allowed to come out, or is like not allowed inside like Elbaf proper. So she just uses all of these people in her little dollhouse to pretend that she's in Elbaf and stuff, and she's just a big sun god because that's just what she knows. But something nefarious could be going on, and we might be helping her this arc, and that might be what this arc is about completely. So that is also a little caveat on theory, on this theory that this big giant that we see is a girl. Last theory I have, which I've heard around, someone in my chat mentioned this actually when I was doing my chapter reaction to this, but theory number 4 is that this giant is actually one of the God's Knights. Now, the main proponent of this theory is that back in chapter 1096, during the Kuma flashback on God Valley, we see one of the God's Knights behind Garling, and he looks eerily similar. He has a bovine skull on him, which, like, if we're real, it's not the same skull, obviously. The guy from the flashback has more of a bull skull with bull horns in it, and this person has a moose skull on their head. So they are two different skulls. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not the same person. It could just be this person just likes this type of skull as a motif, so it could be a different skull but the same person. It also could be a descendant, because don't forget that this person would be you know, this way super old, because this happened like over 40 years ago in God Valley, this flashback. So this person would be very, very old, which would be even more uncomfortable if they're changing Nami's clothes. It could just be just like a design change, like he decided that he wanted it to be a moose skull instead of a bull skull later on. But I don't know. I personally don't buy the God's Night theory too much. Also, why would it be? Why would this old God's Night all the way from God's Valley be collecting people and acting like the sun god? That's a part that I haven't figured out yet, you know. Also, the whole point of the God's Knights is that they're in Merijois dealing with celestial dragon issues, and I have a feeling that we're not all the way in Merijois, because that would be crazy. Oh my gosh, we're all the way back there. We're back to the halfway point, you know? But the point of the matter is that really just the fact that there's a guy with a bull skull back in one flashback, people think that this is a God's Night. Someone in my chat mentioned that, and you know, it's not a bad theory. I just don't know if I personally believe it. But you know, egg might be on my face in a couple days. So those are my 4 main theories about this new character. I wouldn't consider myself much of a gambler, so I don't like having the gall, the pride to like pick one theory and be like, this is exactly what's gonna happen. This person is absolutely a God's Knight. They're absolutely a girl. They're absolutely actually not a giant. I don't like doing that. That's too much pressure on my heart. So I like giving some options and be like, what happens? You know, I don't need that kind of arrogance in my life. I'm just here to have fun. I'm just here, you know, if anyone watches this, what do you think? What do y'all think is gonna happen with this arc? Is this the Elbaf arc? Can we call this the Elbaf arc? Or are we still like post Egghead? Is this gonna be a completely different named arc before we even get to Elbaf? I don't know, but we'll see. But thank you for watching. Have a good one. I do declare.